Du Mishnah Dalet in Perek Dalet in Masechta Bava Kama, and we're learning Lilu Nishmas, Levi Yitzchok ben Reb Chaim Tzvi, Lilu Nishmosei, Tei Nishmosei Tzrura B'Tzrura Chaim. Zog the Mishnah Dalet, Shoir Shel Pikeach, the ox of an open one. An open one means a person who is whose mind is there, meaning that he is mentally capable. That's called a pikeach. So if the ox of one who is basically normal, shenogach shoir shel cheresh shoytev who gores the ox of a cheresh means one who is mute and can't hear. That is also considered a mental defect, that he's not fully there. And a shoita means a person who is a fool, who is not also mentally there. And the cotton, a minor who is not yet obligated, is not responsible, period. So if the normal owner's ox will gore any of these who are mentally challenged and they are not responsible if their ox gores, but if your ox of a pikeach will gore a shoyer shel cheder shoyta v'kotten, you'll be chayiv, you'll be responsible just because they are not mentally fit doesn't exempt the owner who is normal from his ox, watching his ox and not doing damage to these people's to their ox that they own. But on the other hand, the shel chedesh shoyta v'kotten shenogach shoyer shel pikeach. If the ox belongs to a chedesh or a shoita or a minor, to the dumb youth and the shoita and the minor who are not responsible, who gores the ox of the normal one, potter, they will be exempt. Now, this needs to be qualified because the Martanura will explain. Normally, if you have people who are not mentally able to take care of themselves, Beis Din sets up for them an apotropos, a caretaker, and basically the caretaker is responsible for the finances as well. So why do we say that they won't pay for damages their ox does? They should have the caretaker take care of the oxen if they can't take care of it itself. And if it does damage, they should pay. So actually, the Bartanura says this is true if the ox is a muad. But for an ox which is a tam, who only pays migufoi, which means he pays from the metaltalin, because the ox is a metaltalin. It's a movable object. It's not land. It's not real estate. Real estate you collect from Yisomim via the apotropos, via the caretaker, you would pay for it. But here we're talking about a tam. And since it's megufa, it's metaltalin. Metaltalin, which once you take him away, it's gone forever. There's no you can't challenge it, and it's because it disappears as opposed to real estate. The din is we learned to the previous Mishnah that you are not going to collect from the metaltalin of the cheresh v'kot. So Bartanur explains this. I apologize. My speaker was off, so if anybody said anything, I didn't hear it. I just put it on. Is everybody okay? Okay. What happens is so the Bartanura says she'ein ma'midim apotropos. We don't set up an apotropos the tam for a tam for the first 3 times, ligvois megufoi, to collect from the body, because the collection is from the ox itself, from the ox that gore. The metaltlihu, because that is metaltlin movables. V'amrin on the perikamo on daf yudalad, we say in the first perik. In the Gemara, the Mishnah is on daf yudalad. Over there, the Mishnah lists various different things, and one of the things that it lists over there is Shavah Kesef. And we explain in the Gemara what does it mean by Shavah Kesef. Melamed she'ein Bezdin is kokin elo l'nechosim sheyesh lahen achrayis. Bezdin will not go and take assets of the Yisoimim, only assets that have responsibility, which means they are real estate and they can be responsible for other things. Those are the items that Beis Din will collect when you have to pay with real estate. And that would be by a muad, which you pay min ha'aliyah, you pay whatever you have to pay. And Vuikimna b'yasmi, over there the Gemara interprets that when do we say that we only take nechosim sheyesh machrayis? The Gemara says by Yisraelim. So basically, this din that when you collect metaltalin, you're not going to collect from Yisraelim. And since a tam collects metaltalin because you take it from the body of the ox itself, which is metaltalin, and therefore you're not going to collect from the cheresh shoytevekot. Now the Mishnah gives the other case, but what happens? Shoy shel cheresh shoytevekot shenogach. The ox of the cheresh shoytevekot who has already gored, and he's gored 3 times, and he is become a mued. Oh, so ba'midin lohem apatrupas v'chulu. Then we put up a caretaker who will then pay the damages from the house. That will be from the nechosim sheyesh lamachrayis. That will be taken from the aliyah, from the home. So therefore, you would set up for them a caretaker, an apatrupas. Mamidin lohem apatrupas v'chulu. So the Batnur explains, if they have been established as gorers, these oxen of the Chereshet V'Kotten, then Mamidin Lohem Apatrupas Beis Din will set up for them a caretaker. The loy l'shalim chatzi nezek, not to pay a half a nezek, because a half a nezek you pay megufa, you would not pay from them. Elo l'shavye muad, but to make them an established gorer, a muad, the chahoda nogach, that if he will go and gore again, then mishalim in ha'aliyah, then he will pay from the aliyah, from his home. That's already from the chosim sheyesh lahem achrayis. The yigbu hanezek mekarka shel yisayimim. So then they will collect the people that were gored by the cheresh shoytevekot's ox. They will collect the damages from the property that the Yisraelim owns, and that we say they can only shove a kesef, you can't collect from them, but karka you do. Umeidin lohen b'fnei apatrupas. But you have to warn the owner of the ox that his ox has been goring. But how are you going to warn the Cheresh Shoytevekot aren't considered smart enough in order for them to be warned? In other words, not considered b'fonov. Hey, you have to testify in front of the owner. Who would be Olov in the owner? But they're not considered fully there. So he says, "Umeidin lohem b'fnei apatrupas." You testified for the Yisraelim in front of the caretaker, and therefore that's considered like doing it for the apatrupas. Okay, so now we've established they did it 3 times, and the ox of the cheresh shoyte v'kot. And now there is a change of the status. What happens? Nispakach hacheresh. The cheresh, who was dumb and mute, he couldn't talk and he couldn't hear, opened up. He became normal again. He can speak and hear. Or nishtapo hashoyte, or the fool became clear. He's became normal. And the higdil hakotan, and the minor has grown up. What's the status of the ox now? He became a muad at the time that they were cheresh shoyte v'kotan, but now it changed and they became normal. If the ox will gore now, would he pay an ezek shalom? So the Mishnah says no. Ozar l'tamusa, according to the mayor, no, that he goes back to become a tam. He becomes back a tam, he start all over again. You have to warn him another 3 times in this new condition. And the Bartanura explains the kosovar muad sheyotzo mirshus ba'olov v'nichnes l'rshus ba'alim achedim. A muad, an ox who is already established as a gorer, who has left the owner's rights. In other words, in this case, the apotropos was the one that was taking care. He was the caretaker. Now he's left the owners of the ox and it goes into new ownership because now the cheresh shoyte v'kotan, who are already capable, they take over. So it's a new domain. Then he goes back and becomes the dan, back to becoming a tam. The reshus meshuna meshane is din hasrose. The fact that there is a change of domain, reshus meshuna, a change of domain, that changes the laws of warning. You have to start warning all over again. Divrei Meir, that's the opinion of Meir. Rabbi Yisrael, no, he disagrees. He remains in his established. If he was a muad before, he remains a muad, and we don't change it just because there's new ownership. He still remains a muad. What happened? Shoyd ha'itz tadin. This is an ox who has been trained to gore, a fighting ox. It's a stadium that's in a stadium. They used to have entertainment over there, and the ox was used as a gorer. So we say that shoyd ha'itz tadin, and the halacha is that if an ox.
No, just to be clear, so there's another machlekes here that whether you sell the ox, is that a because
Where?
Because the Bartanura said chayzel tamusay because Savar muad shatzim shesbalav nechs shesbalam achen chayzel tamusay. So is the same machlekes between a mayor and a Yosi going to be anytime you sell ox?
I'm not following. Say it again, please.
You have Yosi and a mayor. Are they going to argue any time that a person sells an ox? Because according to the Bartanura, said that the reason that the Yosi holds that the mayor holds chayzel tamusay is because it changes the reshus. And anytime
you're asking, is Rav Yosef's reason because that's not really considered change and reshus? And when he says hariu b'chaskose, what he means to say is he's still the same because it's in the same reshus. It never really changed.
Right.
Or he's saying that even there was a full change, and if you stole the ox, and then still b'chaskose. So I would say
I see that that Kahadi brings to the Gemara that Behu Adin, if you sell the ox, that they can have the same achlokes whether if you sell an ox.
Oh, I was going to say that it's mashma from the Pasha the Loshen. Not that it's not because of this unique situation. Just it remains where it is. So according to what you're explaining now from the Gemara, that the same thing is true anytime you would sell an ox.
Anytime there's a shin and reshus.
A change of reshus does not change the status of the ox. Okay, very good.
According to the Yosef, according to the mayor, it will.
So that's I understand. That's machlokes. The mayor of Yosef is not unique to a apotropos and Yisraimim, but it's just a general halacha. Whenever a reshus is changed, whether the status of the ox changes also with it, if he's become a mud to become back a tam. Okay. I'm also assuming that it's probably obvious what happens an ox that became a tam, and then you change the shoes, he won't become back a mud. Let's say he saw 3 times, as we learned before, and we're not going to say he's going to become back a mud. That's probably a kal v'chomer, right? Anyways, if it's a trained ox to go ahead and gore, like this, we'll learn in the next Mishnah that an ox that cores and kills a person, and we will learn that it makes no difference with regards to killing of the ox, that whether the ox is a tam or the ox is a mud, we'll see the next Mishnah, he would still kill the ox. The pasuk says, but if it's a shoyd ha'id stodin, shemiyuchat says the Bartanura, l'negiches u'melamdim oiser lekach. If he's designed for goring, and this is how they train him, so that's not called something that he would be a responsible shenemar, because the pasuk says the shmeis chof al the pasuk chof ches kiyigach. That means on its own. That's what he chose us to do. And not that other people sort of sicked him or trained him to go ahead and go. And that would not qualify. Let's do quickly Mishnah Hey.
Just I just want to say that I see that it wasn't so partial because the Rambam is not so partial that the Machlekes of Yonisi Behuda will be. Is it dafka by Peresh Shinistapa, or is it any time?
So basically that's a debate.
That's the debate. The Rambam goes Lakani. He says generally if you're going to sell it, it will become Chayzel Tamusai. But if the Chedesh came Shinistapa, then it's going to be that's not considered Shinusha.
I mean, in a sense, this makes a little bit more reasoning to that, because that's why the Mishnah chooses to give the halacha in this case. Otherwise, if it's really true across the board, why is the Mishnah giving this halacha? It's talking about a chereshet v'kotten already. Maybe that's why. But otherwise, the example should be selling an ox or whatever. That would be a more to say if it's not unique to this. Let's see. Can we try to do Mishnah Hey? Let's do quickly.
It's a little busy in my house, but I'll go. I think I'm going to go off. But if you go on,
okay, if we're done. So we're done. Okay, we're done for today, and Mr. Shem will continue tomorrow.
Go on.
Shikoyach.